for Brent Fikowski to close out day 2.
And Brent Fikowski is going to lock up 100 points as he wins climbing snail.
The man they call the Professor gets across the finish line in dramatic fashion to win the event. Fikowski's done. Brent Fikowski will win Test 11.
Fraser in first, Fikowski in third in the overall standings. Who will cross the line first? We're going to have to go to the chip timer. Give the win by 9/100ths of a second to the Professor, Brent Fikowski.
Justin Medeiros is now on the bike as well. Here comes Brent Fikowski. Brent Fikowski with now 2 more reps to go. A big win for Brent Fikowski to close out day 2.
Brent Fikowski. I'm pretty sure I haven't made a video specifically about Brent Fikowski, and since he is retiring, I gotta throw the Andrew Hiller book at him. Of course, this is off the back of an Instagram post that I put up where I state why I believe he's retiring, and we're gonna get into a little bit more behind what that post was all about towards the end of this video, but we're gonna start off. First, natty or not. Actually, there was a coach at my affiliate. He talked at length about how he did not believe that Brent Fikowski was natural. Shut up! I made a video a couple days ago how basically every single video I made was off the back of the stuff that I would talk about with my coaches and clients in the affiliate, and this is one of those topics. Is Brent Fikowski natural? Stop it, you weak! And I got kind of skeptical in like the 2019-2020 period. There were some changes, some fluctuations to his body. He is known as the Professor after all. The Professor, the scientist, it's kind of synonymous, isn't it? Now, all of that being said, I think that Brent Fikowski has shown a pretty natural progression. There's been no ebbs and flows to his performance outcomes at the CrossFit Games, with the exception of things that you could very realistically chalk up to the programming. I think that was, 2019, the year that Noah was pushing Matt and they were kind of doing those weird cuts. He got cut after the short man workout Mary. And that's probably one of the biggest things. You'll see an ebb and a flow to the way people's outcomes and maybe even their physiques. You'll see things outwardly, such as large gains in muscle mass, losses of body mass. You'll see stuff like hair loss. You'll see stuff such as acne on somebody's body. Brent shows none of these outward signs. Andrew Hiller says that Brent Fikowski is natural. Andrew Hiller realizes that Brent Fikowski is qualified for the CrossFit Games 9 times. Of those 9 times, his respective finishes are 4th, 2nd, 4th, 23rd, 15th, 3rd, 16th, 4th, and 3rd. That's 6 times that he was in the top 4. Him, kind of like Cole Sager, has competed in a couple of the different eras. When he started off, he was going head-to-head with Matt. Towards the back end, he's going up against the Adlers and the Medeiroses. And at this most recent CrossFit Games, he finishes 3rd, and he had a shot to win the freaking thing. This entire video might be incredibly different had he had won the 2024 CrossFit Games. This is all ridiculous. Which I'm going to remind everybody, and this kind of throws everybody off. I don't think that that also means that you're the fittest on earth. I think that it means that you won the CrossFit Games. Now, this is a quick in and out, the Andrew Hiller book getting thrown at Brent, and in that book also on top of the natty or not would need to be the fact that he's one of the best movers, if not the best mover of all time. That's part of the Professor thing. He looks at what he's doing, reviews it, sees if he's leaving anything on the table. Am I doing too much or too little? Can I make this more efficient? He has an entire Professor project program that goes along with that thing. Are you somebody out there that needs to be more efficient? Are you leaving stuff on the table? Can you maximize your stuff purely because you're not smart enough in the way that you're performing your movements? Brent Fikowski's got something for you potentially. He needs to take every inch because he's not really your prototypical CrossFitter. He's a little bit too tall. He's like 6'2" and everyone else is 5'9". I remember when he hit that 300-pound snatch and he does that drop it at the end of it. It's one of the most pristine snatches that I've seen from a CrossFitter. So I admire the way that he moves. I admire the way that he works. I admire the tenure and the time that he spent in the CrossFit community. I believe that he's natural. And when I put up this Instagram post that says that Brent Fikowski retired because Dave Castro is not removed from his spot on the sports team, it in no way, shape, or form means that I do not like Brent Fikowski. In no way, shape, or form means that I do not respect Brent Fikowski. But when I go to the comments section, that's kind of what everybody insinuates from that post. And the reason that I wanted to set the video up the way that I did before is because there's this body of work, there's this body of character, there is this human that is Brent Fikowski, and because he's retiring and potentially there's something behind it, now everybody wants to throw him away. And that's just, I don't think, the way that anybody should operate. Daniel Brandon took a little snippet from my comment section and put it up and said, "These comments are not it. Coming in fourth is amazing, and to do so repeatedly is epic. Also trying to mock us for making a living out of something we love. Sorry you'll never make it." She's responding to Whitney Davis, who said, "Agreed, Hiller. They've been thinking about this for 3 years, hence why they started the PFA in the first place. They all think they know better because they are professional athletes. statutes, whatever that means. Lizzie, I'd eventually retire too if I came in fourth for the last 15 years in a row. So I agree with what Daniel says about coming in fourth. It's incredible to come in fourth. And I actually noted that he had also come in third a couple of times as well, along with the second place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times of his 9 times qualifying, he was within the top 4. So Lizzie had that kind of wrong. But to go along with this Whitney Davis thing, I think it's good to now bump into what Jason Hopper had to say. I pinned this one to the top. 423 likes at the time of which I'm making this video. 2 hours after he had posted it. That's pretty freaking wicked. Of course, I wrote, Brent Fikowski retired because Dave Castro was not removed from the head of the sport team, which was the third demand of the PFAA, if you don't remember that from a couple of months back. Hopper writes, false. Brent told me he was going to retire after the games long before the PFAA released any requests. And the reason that I wanted to write that off at the back of the Whitney comment is because I write to Hopper, you say that like the thought to ask for his removal wasn't in his head before posting it. Whitney said something about the PFAA being around for 3 years, which makes me think of something along the lines of a bad relationship. People feel like they're locked into it. There's no better option out there. CrossFit is the best of the best. The CrossFit Games season, everybody does it, right? And Fikowski started the PFAA because in his opinion there was things left lacking. And he was kind of in this abusive relationship, at least from the way that he was looking at it. It's kind of like he'd been squirreling money away for a couple of years, and every single time that something happened, it's like, all right, do I have enough money to make a run for it? Do I have enough money to make a run for it? I got to get away from this abusive relationship. The 2024 games was the final straw. He's got his go bag. He's going to go and make a better life for his wife and kids. In theory, his wife and kids would be whomever he thinks that is going to follow the PFAA. And I got no issues with that. If Brent Fikowski thinks that the PFAA can do things better than the way that CrossFit has done it, then go ahead and freaking do it. Have a freaking blast. I think that it's weird that you're gonna finish off the CrossFit games and then go do it, but I think it would be remiss to think that Dave Castro has nothing to do with this. If Dave was not there this year or the past year or the year before that, which he wasn't for a couple of those years, I bet that Fikowski still continues as a competitive CrossFitter. I mean, he said it for himself. In his retirement post, I am better than ever and still improving at CrossFit. The sport of CrossFit is and has been always determined by the CrossFit Games. If you win the CrossFit Games, you are the fittest on earth. In my opinion, that's held quite a bit of weight with every year except for this year, 2024 season. If Adrian Bosman was there for every single year writing all the workouts, dictating what was going on behind the scenes, Fikowski's probably still doing it if you ask me. Very much how I stated in the beginning of this video. I don't think that people should look at what Brent is doing and throw him out entirely. But in Brent's retirement post, I think that he kind of did that to CrossFit because the PFA initiative isn't really around if it ain't for CrossFit. And Dave basically laid the groundwork for everything that Brent is now kind of putting up his head against. Let's go look at Brent's post. Which, by the way, on his post, I did write that Brent is the man because, as I've said in this video, I think that Brent is the man. It's been a tough decision knowing I'm still at my best and improving. I guess my first question to that is there anything that can be done to get Brent back into the fold? Or is he just gone? He's done. He's out. Because one of the biggest things about the PFA is, can it really be run by a couple of people who are still active competitors in the sport, and that would have been the likes of Brent and Vellner? When I started making these YouTube videos, I knew essentially that I'd kind of have to throw the towel in as far as being a competitive CrossFitter. I knew what it would take to be doing this sort of thing, and maybe that's what Brent is doing. He's like, hey, if I want to put all my eggs in the PFAA basket the same way where I put all of my eggs into the online video creation basket, you just kind of know what comes with that. I'm going to call for the head of Dave Castro the way that he did. Maybe is the same thing as me. I'm going to sit in this chair for 8 hours a day, which is different than spending 4 or 5 of that hours up around and working out and all that stuff. I'm going to lose some of my fitness to do what I want to do. He's going to lose maybe potentially his position as a CrossFit Games competitor because he needs to put himself into the PFAA position. That's more speculation on my part, but maybe for the longest time he's known that the writing's been on the wall. What I don't like about all this is how people are throwing Fikowski under the bus. I don't like that Fikowski has thrown CrossFit under the bus. Without CrossFit, who is Brent Fikowski? Without Castro, who is Brent Fikowski? It's kind of crazy to me how wrapped up people get into a certain thing ready to write somebody off. The reason that I got so kind of emotional about what happened at the CrossFit Games this past year is because I've been there, I've done that, I wanted to be doing that, and I put myself in the position where it's like, hey, if I were there and doing that, and then I was in the position of Lazar, I would freak the out. I can only imagine what it was like for the athletes who were doing that, had done that. I think I've said that before. I mean, I've done swimming events. I think there was a 500 or 600 meter swim at Granite Games one year. I've done Wadapalooza multiple years where you're in the water. I mean, I've had significant others who had been swimming at Wadapalooza where they had near-death experiences in the water. I know what that was like, and maybe that's happening with a lot of people when Brent comes after CrossFit. I'm gonna call that chick. I wonder if she'll pick up. We're gonna see what she has to say about that swimming experience at Wadapalooza. Nice. She didn't pick up. Anyway, when I make a video, I want to give and present an option multiple times, especially when it comes to the CrossFit content, where I say, this is garbage, this should be better, what are you doing here, there, or wherever? I think you got three choices. Number one is you do nothing and you just say, oh, it is what it is. And that's what I think a lot of people are assuming is going to happen with CrossFit, because let's just say that Dave Castro is never removed. Third-party investigation comes back, Dave Castro is found in the clear, so is Don Fall, everything goes on as normal. I think everyone just assumes that that's the worst case scenario. Maybe not everybody. Some people assume that's the best case scenario, but either way, it's an outcome. The other option is you go and you do something entirely different. Screw CrossFit, we're gonna go with one of these other leagues that may or may not pop up. We just wanna do it because we want nothing to do with CrossFit. That's another option. But there is this option in the middle, and I think that that's the best option. I think the best option is for people to hear the criticisms of those giving it and then improve upon what has already been the best thing out there. Best thing out there has been the CrossFit Games forever, claiming of the fittest on earth. Hundreds of thousands of millions of people competing in the open, filtering all the way to the CrossFit Games. Year after year after year, there are improvements made. And at the tip of that when it comes to the sport team is that person that Brent Fikowski called for when it came to that third claim on the PFAA post. They want Dave Castro out. Well, wouldn't the best thing be for that dude to just improve? People assume it's going to be business as normal and then a handful of people want nothing to do with it. But Dave doesn't seem to be the type that isn't going to listen to things and try to make things better. And when it comes to Brent, he's actually trying to do something. In his head, maybe he was forcing the hand of the entity that is CrossFit to be making things better. And you may not like that, and I certainly don't like that he said, hey, get rid of Dave Castro, but that definitely doesn't make me dislike Brent anymore because of everything else that he did. I just wish that he felt the same way about CrossFit and Dave in particular. And that's really all I have to say about that. Andrew Hiller, out.
Class